Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for inviting me back to speak at Morning Star. I always love seeing all your beautiful shining faces, such a wonderful group of people. And of course, the musicians are amazing. Thank you so much. Just worth the trip from Oklahoma City just to hear them play, and that's such a beautiful chant. The last time I spoke at Morning Star, those of you that were here might remember that we spoke a little bit about 3D consciousness, or we might call it egoic operating system, that our planet is shifting to a higher vibrational frequency. And for those of us still here, we are needing to raise our vibrational frequency so we can live with all these changes that the world is going through. We might call that 5D consciousness or divine operating consciousness. Some people call it ascension, that the whole, everybody, all the energy's raising. And is it too far down? Thank you. This would be good if people could actually hear me. Okay, so what I was speaking about is basically raising our vibration so that we can enjoy living in this new environment that's being created as our earth is evolving and we're evolving too. So we also spoke about Christ consciousness last time I was here as being a state of consciousness that we can enter into or have it come into us. Of course, Christ embodied all of those attributes of, in my experience, you may have a different way of experiencing Christ consciousness. For me, it embodies this beautiful feeling of unconditional love, of peace and calm, just serenity, but also a deep sense of acceptance, of understanding and patience, and also the sense of harmony and balance. Just everything is all according to divine law, let's say. And also compassion and forgiveness. The other attribute that I think we can experience in meditation is energetic healing. Like all those things you read about in the Bible, all the healing that Christ did, when we have that beautiful energy flowing through us, we can use that for healing. Today we're going to use that for healing on ourselves. So if we kind of tune into our own being, what are some things that maybe are literally weighing us down? What are things that are burdens that we're carrying that are like lowering our frequency? Instead of being full of joy and happiness and peace and love all the time, we have these things that are weighing us down. In my way of looking at things, I think some of those things are, maybe one of the most important ones is sadness, deep sorrow, and grief. Because in my experience, those are really heavy emotions that stay in our being for a long time. It's really hard sometimes to move through that energy, just really, really dense and drag us down. Also, pain and suffering, trauma, those things are really hard to resolve sometimes, and the energy of that remains not only in our physical, but our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual bodies. And also those times in our life where we feel that we are less than, that we are not good enough, that there's something wrong with us, that maybe we've done something that seems to be unforgivable, but it's this sense of sort of self-reproach or being so hard on ourselves that we can't really get past that, and it really weighs on us. So I know this all kind of sounds like a downer as I've started off with, but let's kind of shift our focus for a moment and think about the concept that everything in our universe and our cosmos really is energy, right? All the theoretical physicists believe that even, looking down into the depths of something solid, if we could look far enough down with a powerful enough microscope, we would see that everything is really spinning particles of energy. It's just rearranged into matter by different patterns of arrangement and the vibrational frequency of whatever that is. So what if our emotions, these heavy things that are burdening us, we could also view as spinning particles of energy? So we're going to use our imagination a little bit today. And so this process that we're going to do, surrendering into grace, that we're going to do in the meditation part of the practice, it has to do with being able to lift up. We're going to create a little spinning wheel of energy at our feet. You might think of it as like a wagon wheel, but including, in addition to the wheel, we're going to have a net, like a mesh, a really fine fabric of a mesh type substance, kind of like what you would clean the leaves out of your swimming pool with, that tiny little mesh. So we're going to spin that wheel from the base of our feet all the way up through the body and out the top of the head. But as we're raising up that wheel, that fine mesh is going to gather up those particles of energy of what we're clearing. And I thought today we would clear that deep sadness, sorrow, and grief, because I feel that's the most heavy energy. But it's going to be very individual for each of you. You can clear whatever seems to be weighing you down. Maybe what's weighing you down is anger or resentment or frustration that you can't get past. Or maybe it's something else that is unresolvable, maybe something that you feel is unforgivable that you can't get past. Whatever it is that's weighing you down, you work with what's weighing you down. So as we bring this energy up, your job, I'm going to talk you through it, but your job is going to be to allow yourself to let go of that. Now that may sound like, well, hey, I can let go of that. But sometimes, for example, with grief, especially if it's grief over a person we've lost, a loved one, at some deep level, not really a conscious level, we might be holding on to grief because in a way we feel we're honoring that person. And if we let go of that grief, that means they didn't matter, they didn't exist, they don't mean as much to us. That's not true. We can honor them in many different ways. Us holding on to deep grief inside of us is not helping us, not helping anyone. We can let go of the grief and move into a different state of freedom. We can appreciate our love for that person in a different way. Maybe we're holding on to pain and suffering because at a deep level, we're really wanting someone to witness what happened to us and how terrible it was and really be there with us and acknowledge this happened and have compassion for us at a very deep level. We don't need to hold on to the pain and suffering and trauma for that to happen. We can let all of that go, feel free, and receive that compassion and solace in a different way. So as we're doing the technique inside of you, unhook the little hooks, do whatever you need to do to literally allow yourself to let go, release and let go. Now you may think that's a difficult thing, but as Midge so beautifully explained grace, which now I don't have to explain grace, we have all these divine beings, and I know they're present with all of you. It's such a beautiful energy here. Grace is the gift of the divine to dissolve all these things for us. All we have to do is literally let them go. So what are we going to let them go into? In my spiritual practice, we work a lot with Christ consciousness, as we've talked about, and we might just use our imagination to think of Christ consciousness as like a plane of golden light, maybe about a foot above the top of your head, where this energy of Christ consciousness is very much concentrated. And as we lift these particles of the grief and sorrow with our wheel into that level of the golden light, we're going to ask that these particles of that grief literally be dissolved. And I like to say, I'm surrendering what it is I'm bringing up there, my burdens. I'm surrendering them into this Christ energy and asking, please dissolve and resolve this energy for the good of everyone concerned in whatever setup this pattern. Now there's another little physics sort of part that goes with this. If we think of everything as particles, if we think of everything as energy, let's view that energy of particles. And if we could tune into the source of creation, however you perceive that to be, what if all of the energy of the source of creation that's streaming down into the cosmos and on down into our planet, continually, what if those energy particles are particles of unlimited potential? They have the ability to be created into anything. And what if our grief and our feelings of pain and suffering are charged with this program of grief or charged with this program of pain? And that as we lift this up into the golden light and we ask for that powerful transformative force of the source of creation to come into the golden light and act on those particles, they can be transmuted, which means kind of spun 180 and that program is dissolved. And now those particles can take on a new program. And that new program is whatever you want it to be. Let's say we'd like it to be peace, happiness, health, joy, divine order. And not only for us, but everyone involved in whatever situation set this up for us. So as we bring our particles of grief into the golden light, asking that they be dissolved and resolved for the good of all concerned, will invite that powerful source of the universe. You might think of this as a divine mother, you might think of it as the Christ, you might have a view of God as an energy field of the whole cosmos, pouring that power into that golden light and shifting, deprogramming and reprogramming into pure love, pure light, and flowing that back into us and to everyone else concerned. Now, just one other little piece of the technique. That is to think about all this that we're holding in our body, our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual body, or just our energy field. We have what's going on in our present day life, right? We have enough to deal with now in this world, in our lives right now. We've all got stuff we're dealing with. But maybe also however you view your timeline, like where you are now, all the way back to whenever you were birthed as a soul, your entire timeline, every version of yourself that's ever existed. What if we also are carrying now in this energy body that's taken a physical form, all the grief and sadness and deep sorrow from all of those other existences that we've had? That's a lot to clear. And what if we're also carrying unconsciously, maybe through our genetics, any of that deep sorrow or grief from our generational background, from our ancestry, from everything on our mother's side, everything on our father's side? That's a lot that we're carrying. And what about if when we were little teeny tiny in the womb, absorbed things while we were in utero, and also just growing up from our caregivers, from our parents? Sometimes we absorb stuff. So this is a lot to clear. We personally, probably can't clear that. That's a lot to clear. But since if we think of it as energy and we're also calling on this power, the source of the universe to clear it, it really is possible to clear all of that out of our being. And as we clear all of that out of our being, we're creating a lot of empty space inside of us. So we can fill that empty space with whatever we'd like to be there. How about the Christ consciousness energy? How about peace and love, unconditional love, harmony and balance, acceptance, understanding, patience, compassion, forgiveness, healing, and love for everything about us and everything about everybody else, whatever you want to fill it with, joy, happiness. So at the end of our exercise, we're going to fill all our empty spaces with the Christ consciousness light. So I think that's all I was going to say. Probably it's a little bit confusing. As we do it, though, I think it will make a lot more sense. And I think that what you will feel is free. I think you will feel a sense of freedom and lighter and more lighthearted. So are we playing a chant, or I'm just going to go into the meditation? I know we rearranged it a few times. You used to do meditation? Okay. So if you want to get ready to meditate, however you do that, if you want to just be comfortable, sitting upright where you can be awake and alert.
Lights on or off? Do you want the lights on or off?
Off will be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so as we sit comfortably in our chairs in this beautiful environment, just give yourself a moment and feel all of that loving energy pouring into you. And maybe take a few deep breaths that help the body relax, whatever type of breathing you enjoy doing. I like to inhale through the nose, and I imagine that I'm gathering up any stress or tension in the body. And as I exhale slowly and deeply out the mouth, I'm allowing any stress or tension to flow out with the breath. And allow yourself to sink into that feeling of relaxation and peace. And if you'd like to, we can focus at the top of the head. And we can put out a call to the universe, inviting in all of your personal guides and helpers, your teachers, angels, those divine beings and ascended masters that you have an affinity for. Call on your own inner being, your own higher self, your soul, your counsel. Call on the source of creation, Divine Mother, or however you like to connect to these higher planes of consciousness. And invite these beautiful beings to be present with you today during this meditation and guiding you to receive whatever you might need right now. Sharing your love and gratitude with them for always being there for you and always having your best interests at heart. So let's tune into our body and invite all of the little particles of deep sorrow, sadness, and grief to come to the surface. And for this first round with the wheel, we'll focus on what's currently going on in your life. So we'll spin this wheel at your feet. It's got the mesh lining, the fine little mesh that can gather up these particles of energy. And with your breath, with your intention, with your imagination, begin bringing that spinning wheel up through your feet, your legs, up through your torso, gathering up all the little pieces, all the little particles of grief. And on your side, allow the grief to go. Allow these particles to be collected. And you might think something like, I release and let go. So let's bring the spinning wheel all the way up through your being, up through your head, up above your head, about a foot into this golden light, this plane of consciousness of Christ and Buddha, where matter comes into and out of form. So as you bring this spinning wheel up, surrender these burdens into the golden light, into the Christ, and ask, please dissolve and resolve all of this energy of grief for my highest good and for the highest good of everyone concerned. And now let's call on the source of creation, Divine Mother, the Christ, this powerful force to flood the golden light, to flood these particles of grief and to transmute them into a neutral charge, no program. And then with all the love of the source of creation, of Divine Mother, poured into these particles of energy, transform them into what you would like instead. Please fill me up with pure love and light, peace and happiness, and pour these new particles of energy from the divine into my being, into all those involved. And feel that love filling you up. Now let's spin another wheel at your feet. This time, ask your body to bring to the surface any of this deep sorrow, sadness, grief from any time in your timeline, all the way back to when you were first created as a soul. We want to clear this all the way back. So as you spin the wheel and you begin bringing the wheel with the fine mesh up through your being, let go, release, allow all of these particles to be captured in the spinning wheel. And move this wheel up through your body, up above your head, into the golden light. Surrender this grief into the golden light, into the Christ. Please dissolve and resolve all of this energy of grief for the highest good of me and everyone concerned. And invite the source of creation, Divine Mother, the Christ, to pour this powerful energy to flood the golden light, to transmute these particles of grief and transform them into what you'd like instead. Pure love, pure light, health, happiness, wholeness. Pour this into me and everyone concerned. Feel this divine love filling you up. And now let's spin the wheel at your feet one last time. And this time invite your being to bring to the surface, clear out of your DNA, everything you've accepted or inherited, this deep sorrow, sadness, and grief from your ancestors, from your genetic lineage, from your parents, your caregivers, from the womb. Bring all this to the surface and allow yourself to let it go. We spin this wheel at the feet. We bring it up through the body, gathering every little particle of grief and sadness, all the way up through your head, through your brain. Let's bring that spinning wheel all the way up into this golden plane of consciousness. And surrender this grief and sadness into the Christ consciousness. Please dissolve and resolve this deep sadness, grief, and sorrow. for my highest good and the highest good of everyone concerned. And invite this powerful force of creativity, of divine love from the source of creation, from Divine Mother, to flood this golden plane of consciousness and transmute these particles that were formerly grief and sadness, now become neutral. And with all the love of the universe, pour this energy of transformation into the golden light, into these particles, and create what you would like instead. And pour this divine love, this harmony and balance, this divine order of joy and happiness down into you and to everyone concerned. And now in this golden light, let's invite this beautiful, loving energy of the Christ to take a liquid form, like a liquid gold. And invite all your angels and helpers to begin pouring this liquid gold into the top of your head. And let it flow through your being like little rivulets of love and healing. And let this liquid gold fill every space inside of you, all these empty spaces you've created by letting go of the grief. You can ask inside, please fill me up with exactly what I need right now. Thank you so much. Open to receive this beautiful gift. And now let's share our love and gratitude to all of your guides and helpers, especially the Christ. Breathe up and down inside your being, feeling that love and peace all throughout. And now let's begin to come back and focus at the base of the spine, feeling grounded in your physical body. You might wiggle your toes. If you'd like to, stretch your arms overhead as we all come back. Namaste.